I just want to show you something really quick on these kings of Israel and Judah. Going back and looking at King Jeroboam, there are 13 similarities that I found between Jeroboam and the reign of the Antichrist. You can probably find more. But since 13 is the number of rebellion that's associated with the Antichrist, I just went ahead and stopped at 13. But Jeroboam and the Antichrist, they both promote gods of gold and images. Look at 12:28. In 12:28, it says, "Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt." 2 calves of gold. He promotes gods of gold, just like you're going to see gods of gold in the tribulation period, Revelation 9:20. Obviously, the Antichrist will, for a time at least, promote gods of gold. And the next thing, he persuades with convenience. Notice that in verse 28, he also said, "It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem." You know, it's too much for you to go up to Jerusalem and worship. So I made you these false gods here. Just stay down here and worship these. It'll be so much more convenient. So he's going to persuade with convenience, just like Revelation 13:17, the Antichrist. He's going to persuade with convenience. You know, get this mark, get this number, just worship me. Everything will be okay. And it'll be so much more convenient for you. Everything will be associated with this mark. You won't have to worry about nothing. He persuades with convenience. The next thing, his priests are for devils. Over in 2 Chronicles 11:15, it talks about how Jeroboam ordained priests for the devils that they worship. And Revelation 17:3-5, you're going to see the Antichrist associated with Mystery Babylon, which is obviously the Roman Catholic Church, and they have demonic priests, devilish priests, and that's the Babylon's the hold of every foul spirit and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Devils. They both partake in signs. In chapter 13 and verse 3, and it says, "And he gave him a sign the same day, saying, This is the sign which the Lord hath spoken." So the young prophet comes and gives the King Jeroboam signs, just like 2 Thessalonians 2:9, the Antichrist himself is going to do signs and lying wonders. And I'm sure he'll see the 144,000 doing them. He'll see Moses and Elijah doing it. The next thing, he pushes new times and laws. Look at 12:32. In 12:32 it says, "And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah. And he offered upon the altar, so did he in Bethel, sacrificing unto the calves which he had made. And he placed in Bethel the priests of the high places which he had made." See, he ordains a feast in the 8th month on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah. He's pushing new times and laws. He's having them do it at the place of his choosing instead of the place of the Lord's choosing. "So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel. And he offered upon the altar and burnt incense." He devises it of his own heart. He's pushing new times and laws, just like the Antichrist in Daniel 7:25. Next thing, the prophets are against him, just like they'll be against the Antichrist. 1 Kings 13:2, "And he had cried against the altar and the word of the Lord, and said, O altar, altar, thus saith the Lord, Behold, a child shall be born into the house of David, Josiah by name, and upon thee shall he offer the priests of the high places that burn incense upon thee, and men's bones shall be burnt upon thee." The young prophet, prophesies against Jeroboam, just like Next, Moses and Elijah will prophesy against the Antichrist, Revelation 11:7. The next thing is that he is past feeling. He's past feeling. Look at verse 4. And it came to pass when King Jeroboam heard the saying of the men of God, which had cried against the altar in Bethel, that he put forth his hand from the altar, saying, Lay hold on him, and his hand. He said, Lay hold on him, and his hand which he put forth against him dried up. So even though he heard the preaching, he still wanted them to take away the young prophet. And the Antichrist will be past feeling himself. Daniel 11:37. And next you see the prophecy of a dried up arm or hand. In this case, in 13:4, when he puts that arm out, that hand up against the young prophet, it dries up. Just like in Zechariah 11:17, the Antichrist hand will be clean dried up. So his hand dried up by the word of the Lord. He is a pretender. That's the next thing. Look at this. Look how he's a pretender. And the king answered and said unto the man of God, Entreat now the face of the Lord thy God, and pray for me, that my hand may be restored me again. And the man of God besought the Lord, and the king's hand was restored him again, and became as it was before. And the king said unto the man of God, Come home with me, and refresh thyself, and I will give thee a reward. See how when he got in a situation where his hand was dried up, he was, becomes a pretender, becomes a nice guy. Well, in Daniel 11:21, the Antichrist is going to come in peaceably, obtain the kingdom by flatteries. But he's not really a good guy. He's a horrible guy. He's a pretender. And his wife is too. You'll see in 1 Kings 14:2 that Jeroboam's wife is also a pretender that even puts on a disguise. In Revelation 17, you see the Antichrist wife, Mystery Babylon, the great whore. She's also a pretender. The Roman Catholic Church. But they don't trick the preacher. You see, in verse 14:6, they don't trick Ahijah. He knows exactly who they are. But they both provoke God to anger. You'll see in 2 Thessalonians 1:8 that the Lord's coming in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not God. In 2 Thessalonians 2:8, the chapter about the Antichrist, you'll see that he's going to be destroyed with the brightness of the Lord's coming. And Jeroboam, he provokes God to anger. For so it was charged me by the word of the Lord, saying, Eat no bread, nor drink water. That's 13. 14:9. But hast done evil above all that were before thee, for thou hast gone and made the other gods and molten images to provoke me to anger, and hast cast me behind thy back. They both provoke God to anger. They both pressure men to sin. Revelation 13, you're going to see the Antichrist and the false prophet. They pressure men into sin, into taking the mark of the beast. They give them no other choice. They have to do it. But in 14:16, it says, And he shall give Israel up because of the sins of Jeroboam, who did sin and who made Israel to sin. So just like the Antichrist causes people to sin, that it's either choose the Lord or choose the Antichrist. Jeroboam, with him, you either got to choose the Lord or choose Jeroboam. They pressure men to sin. Also, pay attention to the 13s. They're both associated with the 13s. Jeroboam is in 1 Kings 13 and 2 Chronicles 13. And then the Antichrist shows up in Revelation 13. And next, they both put out a faithful remnant. As Jeroboam does in 2 Chronicles 11:13 through 17. He pushes out the faithful men. And in Mark 13:14, you'll see the Antichrist will do the same thing. The Antichrist is going to come through. Anybody that's faithful to the Lord, they're going to get beheaded, and he's going to think, and his henchmen are going to think that they're doing God's service for doing it. But there you go. There's 13 similarities between Jeroboam and the reign of the Antichrist.